What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Pro vs. Pro. Shout out to all of you. We have made it through the entire season. We've reached the Tour Championship. Thank you for experiencing this whole season with us. It's been a really fun ride doing this show here with Justin, and we're looking forward to continuing it into next season. Before then, we've got some housekeeping stuff to take care of first. So, hey, it's football season, right? We all know what time of year this is. FTN Fantasy Plus, FTN Daily Plus. For a very limited time, you can get them both together at a major discounted price. You can find that at my Twitter at AlexBlickle1. You can find it at any of the house accounts from FTN Fantasy, FTN Daily, whomever. Go check that out. If, hey, a lot of you guys, obviously, you love golf. You love DFS. You're here with us all the time. Maybe you just want that DFS package. Go to FTN Daily, get your Daily Plus subscription there. You can use promo code PRO for 10% off. And with all of that being said, let's jump in because we got a busy show today. We've got my State Open recap. We've got Justin's Mid-Am qualifier. Is that correct? U.S. Mid-Am qualifier. Interesting story from the U.S. Am too. I played with Neil Shipley, who made it to the finals. So some interesting stuff there. And then, of course, Hovland makes the charge. We've got Ryder Cup talk. We've got Tour Championship talk. So busy show. Justin, how pumped are you for this week?
Yeah, man. I obviously the formats, we can talk about that later. So we're turning what could be a great week into a whatever week. But, back to the football stuff, man. My first love in DFS was from football. I finished third in like the $23.20 max. This is before I knew what DraftKings was. Paid like $20,000. I thought it was the best day ever. So obviously a great time to jump in with FTN to get going in football. I mean, $60 worth of exposure to win something so big like that. So definitely enough content there to help us get going. But yeah, I'm more excited about the events after the Tour Championship than I am this one. But it's still fun. This is the place I played the USAM in 01. So I do have a little bit of history here. It was bent grass greens back then. And the rough was also like 6 inches and not fairly easy like it is now. So, but yeah, a lot of history there. Really cool place. The place is cooler than the golf course, in my opinion. But it'll be fun. Should be a good talk. And I know that you got to compete again. So you're probably pretty fired up for golf.
Yeah, man, it was fun to be back. Pennsylvania Open, obviously, where I won 2 years ago. I didn't get the win, but was able to top 20. And I've been kind of making fun of my own quality of play for the last 6 months or so. I have not known what the hell I'm going to have anytime I step onto the golf course. Ball striking has just been an eventful and kind of humbling experience for the last 6 months or so. So the fact that I was able to show up, have 3 really solid ball striking rounds, just didn't make enough putts to contend. But dude, it's just like being in that competitive environment and knowing you're making really good, confident swings over and over. It's an addicting feeling. So it was just really nice to have that back in my life.
Yeah, for sure. And competing, like I think I still play golf just for the competition, right? Mm-hmm. I managed to miss by 2 again. So I've basically missed by 1 or 2 in every USGA event or qualifier this year. This was probably my best chance to compete, but not going to make many excuses. I mean, I got a bad wave, a bunch of mud balls in the morning. USGA doesn't believe in touching your golf ball, which is fine. It is what it is, but it dried out for the afternoon guys. We only had one guy get through in the morning. He shot 71. I shot 73, was in second. Thought I had a chance. I mean, so I waited around in Houston 4 hours from home we actually went to Dave and Buster's, me and buddy, just played games. So I would have been a couple of Coors Light.
Frustrating for you too. Like you're in the Mid-Am qualifier and they're like, no, you can't touch your ball. It doesn't matter. We're not going to mess with the sanctity of golf. And then you turn on the FedEx Cup playoffs and there they are, live clean in place every
day. Yeah, it's done. And the USGA has always been like that. I remember having to lay up on holes where we had a lot of rain, like in a US Open local or something, where you just like try to hit ground balls for layup shots to clean your golf ball off. Like it's pretty unusual, but you know what you're going to get with them, and it is what it is. We stayed We played every video game they had in Dave & Buster's for 4 hours and drank a few Coors Lights, waited for a playoff. We're back at the golf course, and like the last group knocks me out of a playoff. I'm like, well, here we go. Now I get to drive 4 hours home. So
that's rough. Have you ever? One of my craziest experiences on the mini tours was there was a golf course. I can't remember the name of it, but the fairways were so sandy, and it was like just a really moist, humid day. And so whenever you hit a shot, just from the ball rolling through the fairway, it would have like almost like, when you're building a snowman, you just roll the pile of snow accumulates. So there's like this ring, like a Saturn ring around the ball every time just from hitting it in the fairway, live clean in place. So by like hole 7, everyone in our group is just like, should we be aiming for the rough every hole so this doesn't happen? And that's what we were doing. We were just purposely aiming for a rough and trying to get the ball around that way. It was crazy experience. And like on like the 5th hole, we said to the tournament director, like, why are we doing this? He's like, if I had known the ball was going or the sand was going to accumulate like this, I obviously would have said it. But it's like 2 holes in, they pointed it out to me. And I was like, well, damn, it's too late. I can't change it. So yeah, that was a crazy, crazy day. I'll never forget.
You see it on the greens a lot, right? Like when you're on a warm-up green early I know we do in Texas, right? Bermuda greens, a little bit of or top dress, and they get a little wet, and they just so you literally like it's the worst trying to putt in the mornings because your ball is just covered in sand. You got to clean it before every putt. It's just brutal. So obviously a lot of experience with that stuff down here, but I've never seen it in the fairways. That's a different monster.
That was wild. I think they had also maybe just aerated or something like that. I don't know exactly what it also might have just been that, this was a golf course that didn't exactly pour on it, keeping it in good shape. And so they're just like, we'll throw a bunch of sand down. It'll be fine.
That's right.
Anything else from your mid-am qualifier? Like, how did you feel about the way you played? And
I was playing. To be honest, I played awesome for a while. I played terrible like the 3 days before. Like as I was getting more and more ready, I was starting to play worse and worse. And I played one of those practice rounds that I like would hate being behind me, where I was hitting like multiple shots and multiple chips and like chunking chips and just like lost. And I mean when I worked hard enough to figure it out. By the time we started playing, it was way better. So yeah, golf's hard. And we got through 17 holes and I looked at my caddy and I said, why do I do this to myself? Like you get done playing and when you're not playing good, you're struggling, you're working. I play golf so I can drink a few beers and hang out with my friends, not just put myself through that stress test every single time. So, but I like to compete. So it's fun. It's fun to do a couple times a year. Matter of fact, I leave for Vegas Thursday to go play basically my last one of the year. I got invited to play it's like an international pro-am deal. It's 4 guys from North Texas, take our 3 best scores. So I don't know. Cool. Yeah. A friend of mine asked me, he said, hey, we got a spot. You want to go? So I'm going to go play, compete. It'll be fun. We'll have we're going to be in Vegas for opening weekend at college football. So should have a good time.
Did you watch any of the USAM?
I didn't. It just the way that it all worked out. I watched a few highlights. Obviously that kid hit that Shipley kid hit that unbelievable shot to get into the finals. We watched one night. Man, where were we? We watched one night, maybe like Thursday night. We went to dinner and it happened to be on. And that Chinese kid was puking all over himself. And then he hit an amazing shot on 18 to close that match out. And I felt bad for the kid. I mean, he was hitting horrible golf shots. And the other kid was like 5 down with 5 to play, and they got the 18T 1 down. And the kid, it was just like giving it away. And I was like, man, this poor kid.
That's why they say the hardest hole to win is the one to close it out. It's crazy.
It was like watching it. I was just like, oh. So, but outside of that, I didn't really get to watch a whole lot. I had a buddy that missed match play by 1. The same guy that Monday qualified for the Nelson, that led the Nelson in driving distance, that I said probably the most talented golfer I ever played with. He said that for him, the golf course just didn't fit him very well. I mean, he's still talented enough to make it and didn't play as well as he wanted. But, there was said he had to hit a ton of irons off the tee, and where, guys like me would be hitting driver too, and he's having to hit irons, to the same spot and just couldn't take advantage of his length. So he didn't sound overly disappointed, but I'm sure he was still somewhat disappointed to not make match play.
Yeah, for sure. The coolest takeaway for me watching Neil after playing with him last year in the Pennsylvania Open, it's like I imagine that everyone watching was just like, wow, look how like into the moment and how intense this moment is for him, just from the way he was reacting to everything. I don't know if you saw, he also had like a 20-foot putt. He like went to fist pump and it just missed, and he had to like pull it back at the last second. But it's funny because that's who he is every round. I mean, round one and round two of the Pennsylvania Open, like 8 shots off the lead, he's still like that fired up. He's mad at himself for every mistake, celebrating every good shot. It's just really cool to see him then take that exact approach in that stage and have so much success. That was a lot of fun for me to watch him. And I mean, I obviously like I love watching the USAM, but I've never had a rooting interest before, so that was really cool. Made it a little bit better. And it also, by the way, I think segues perfectly into our discussion about the Tour Championship, because my personal opinion is the Tour Championship should be match play, especially now that we don't have the actual match play championship. The Tour Championship should be match play. And the one objection, the one, like, I guess, deterrent for the Tour is that the television experience isn't that great for match play, supposedly, for semifinals and finals, because there's just not that much golf. I thought the broadcast from NBC and on Peacock from the USAM was actually really, really stellar.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that they want is more electricity at the golf course on Sundays, on the last round. I think that's where they lack, right? There's one match. But I think there's a way to figure out a format to where, you have the 2 guys playing for first and second, 2 guys playing for third and fourth, 2 for fifth and sixth, 2 for – you could have 8 matches, up to 16 guys going at once, right? To make it and there's enough money. I mean, you're talking $100,000 a match. Like, yeah. I'm going to get fired up to play $100,000 a match. I mean, they're going to be – so if you could break the tiers down and be smarter about it, I don't see why they wouldn't. It's way better than this Scheffler's 10 under. And I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah, I don't like this current format. Here's my idea. Let me know what you think of this, because I don't love the idea of having like consolation matches on the course. I don't think anybody really cares about those, including, by the way, the players. Like you can't convince me that Victor Hovland after last week is going to come this week and suddenly care about his 5th or 6th place match. You're just not going to convince me of that. So what I would do is we now have the top 50 guys being exempt into the designated events next year, right? So what if instead it was the top 47 were exempt, and then the next 6, so 48 through 53, were competing for those final 3 spots. And so you had, let's say, just six guys, 36 holes, stroke play, the top 3 get those last 3 coveted spots. And they play their rounds during the semifinal matches and during the final match. So instead of having 1 and 2 groups on the course, you have 4 and 5, and there are 2 things going on. So there's plenty for the broadcasters to talk about in between shots. I think that could turn into like one of the best days of golf, or one of the best weekends of golf.
Yeah, and I mean, you could do a 1 and 10 tee, so they're they're on the opposite sides, they're not bothering each other. And I think so. I like the idea, but I would even go more than 6 guys. I'd probably look at 12 guys playing, 40, 45 to 50, and then all the way to 50, whatever 6, or just add more to it. 4 groups of 3 or something. I just think, but yeah, I never thought about it that way. I think that there'd be more interest in some of those so-called consolation matches than you give credit for, because I think that people have enough pride, especially if, you get guys that just genuinely don't like each other playing against each other. I mean, there's more.
You're really lucky to have those matchups.
But I mean, there's more of that out there of guys that you just like really want to beat than I think people. And sometimes it's amongst friends. It doesn't even have to be like, enemies. I mean, I agree with like your comment about Hovland, but that's just his personality. He's just a.
Well, think back to like the actual match play championship when Burns and Cam Young were going at it in the final. Did you really care about the consolation match?
I don't even remember who was in it.
Thank you for making my point. I'm not sure the guys who were in it remember that they were in it.
Yeah.
Was it Rory and Scotty?
I don't know. It was a pretty big match, I think.
I think I recall us saying like the PGA Tour would have liked both semifinal matchups to go the opposite way, so they could have Rory versus Scotty in the final. I think that's what it was. It turned out to be the consolation, in which case nobody really cared about it. We don't even remember if that was it. Like if Rory and Scotty met in the actual final, like that would be memorable. We barely remember that they played each other. So I think finding something else other than consolation matchups is what they should do. And I think, neither one of us are too psyched about this designated event, top 7, top 50, whatever it is, but they could at least use that to their advantage and turn it into something really cool in this week. And I think that's my favorite idea. I don't know. I'm sure others have similar ideas or others really good ideas. Honestly, like there aren't many things that they could do that wouldn't improve this week to some degree.
No doubt about it. And did you watch much of the tour event at all this week?
Yeah.
So talking about Scotty there, how good he's hitting it obviously is one topic, but I actually think he's putting fine. Like he hits his ball with proper speed down his line quite a bit. Like it's not horrible putts.
Yeah, I think that it has to be an alignment issue because I'm in complete agreement. Like he's hitting his lines. And so to me, like there are two explanations. Number one, he's not reading the greens correctly. I saw a bunch of people saying, it's only a matter of time before he's using aim point to help fix this. And then, so that's one explanation. And the second explanation that he's just not aligned correctly or that he's struggling with speed. So like maybe he's hitting the ball where he wants, but he's aimed a ball outside and it breaks more than that because he didn't quite hit it as hard as he wanted. But there are a number of times where he's starting the ball outside the cup to the left and it like moves slightly left. I think it has to be an alignment issue because you can't convince me that somebody who's been a great putter in the past, like he has at times, especially last year when he was dominant, he was reading greens really well then, of course. So I don't think that that's something that can just go away the way it has. I think alignment, however, is something that as soon as that's something you struggle with, that can take a long time to fix.
Well, the head is really difficult too to deal with. I mean, the mental aspect. But I was just impressed of how many times it looked like he hit the ball down his intended line.
Yeah.
And they were all finishing about the same distance behind the hole. So they were all, 8 to 12 inches behind the hole. You didn't have a lot of speed variance or didn't seem to. I'm surprised his caddy is not more involved with putting a line on the ball and putting it down the intended line and lining your putter, especially now that he's gone to a mallet putter with that big line on it.
Yeah, and I think that's another hint to us, by the way. Like, I think the purpose of that putter is probably thinking that that putter will help him align the putt better than what he was previously using.
But, I mean, the guy that I read something about Corey Connors is like 20th in strokes gained, and he's closer to the guy that's 100th than he is to the guy that's first.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, Scotty's tee to green numbers this year are almost record-breaking. I think Tiger's is the only one in the last 25 years or something, or maybe in the strokes gained era that is better.
Yeah, it's impressive, and it doesn't look like it's stopping, even with him struggle putting.
Yeah. Speaking of impressive, was Hovland's back nine the most impressive nine moment included of the entire season?
Man, I thought you were going to say the playoffs or something. I thought you were going to tee one up for me.
Way too easy. Of course it was.
I mean, Harmon's putting at the British has to be maybe in there. You're not going to think of very many. That was And it's not like he wasn't even making like 40 footers. I mean, he was hitting unbelievable. There were a couple shots that ended up 15 feet that were probably better shots than where they ended up.
And I mean, just think about like how dominant Rory has been for the last few months or so. And consistently on that back nine, Rory is scrambling for par. Oh, I wonder what Hovland's doing. Oh, he's got 6 feet for birdie. Yeah. Hovland was inside of Rory after 2, and Rory was laying 3, probably 4 times on the back, something like that. And Rory shot one of the best rounds of the day.
Rory hit that one putt like 15 feet by, right behind Hovland's for birdie. I was like, I wonder what collusion's going on here. Like, he just lined it up for him. But then, like, whoever was behind them, like, they hit a putt, and they didn't hit it as far by as Rory did, but they hit it like 8 feet by as well.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously it was a little bit faster. Dude, yeah, it was incredible to watch. It was incredible. I mean, he's just so cool and calm and collected and just same attitude all the time. Like, you have no idea how he's playing. It was fun to watch. And I think he's genuinely a good guy. And I think that, I mean, this kind of goes without saying, but how are the Europeans underdogs in the Ryder Cup?
That's a really good question. And it's one that I've been wrestling with too, because that team, especially the top of the board, is stacked. And you don't even need much more than Rahm and Rory. That combination is going to be deadly. I'm in complete agreement, and it's a perfect segue into what is the American team going to look like?
I mean, I don't know. Are they scared? Are they playing to win? Like, what do they want? New blood? Like, what?
I just mean which players are being selected here.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know what he's thinking. Like, what? I mean, I would love for him. What sucks is Koepka should be selected, obviously, but if you want the best chance to win with such everybody being so evenly matched, like, it would be hard to not select somebody like Dustin Johnson. I know he hasn't had like a unbelievable season, but if you want to talk about the guy that gives you the most upside out of anybody outside the top 10, he's got to be in that conversation.
So I like this call because I think a really important distinction to make is the 6 automatic bids, the automatic qualifiers. Those are the guys who have earned it. The remaining 6, it's not about who has earned it. It's solely about who is going to help this team win. That's the question Zach Johnson has to answer. That might be a course fit answer. It might be a match play history answer. It might be a Ryder Cup specific history answer. Whatever the case is, I think one of the important points is ceiling, like you just said. I'm going to make the case for Justin Thomas. I've actually kind of evolved into this position that I now think he should be on the team. And the way I'd phrase it is, if you take Justin Thomas, you pair him with Spieth in the first match, they've been so damn good together. And one of 2 things is going to happen. Either they continue to have success together, in which case you say, great, I've got the superstar pairing that has helped the U.S. win President's Cups and Ryder Cups in the last 3 years. Or he plays poorly, and your team is so damn deep. The U.S. has this incredible depth that you can just say, all right, he's not playing again until singles, and that will be perfectly fine with them.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely get your point about that. I just don't know that that's what I would be looking for. I think we're kind of have the same argument here with a different player. You just happen to have a teammate that he's played with. I think we kind of have the same idea. You're just looking at it more of he's got this dream team pairing with Spieth, where Dustin can kind of just kind of plays with whoever, kind of does his own thing. I just don't know who or what I think the team should look like. I would hate to have to choose. I just don't feel like there's going to be much equity in the situation of, live guys compared to PGA guys and who should go and who shouldn't go. Like, Zach Johnson has to make a stand one way or the other. He truly wants to make this team the best he can to win the Ryder Cup, or he's going to stand by the PGA Tour and that's it. And he's going to get criticism either way. I mean, if he picks Justin Thomas and basically all PGA Tour guys, he's going to get hammered if they lose. If they lose, he will get absolutely hammered by everybody.
And if he takes Brooks and DJ and they don't perform, and Justin Thomas, who has done so well for the Americans, is not on the team and they lose, he'll get hammered for it. Like there's which to me means you just don't think about the politics of it at all, and you just build the team that you think is the best chance of winning.
Yeah, and I think Brooks is a part of that no matter what. He can't. I don't think there's a way he can be left off that team. He's pretty well liked. Everybody knows he likes to compete. I mean, he's definitely different. He's not like Spieth and Thomas well liked, but I mean, he's very, very, very much emotion on his sleeve. Like, this is who I am. Like me or don't like me, I don't care. I'm going to go out there and compete.
So, do we agree that Brooks and Spieth are pretty much locked?
I would get it. Spieth. I think Spieth making it to this week made a big deal. I think that was big that he just missed, right? 31. Did Spieth finish one out,
or did he get the last spot?
I think he got passed by somebody for the last spot in, like right at the end.
No, he's in.
He is in.
Yeah. He and Hatton the last two.
I knew that they were talking about that, but for some reason I thought Spieth got passed by somebody else for the last spot in. I could be wrong.
No, he's in. I'm looking at the leaderboard here. All right, so if those two are in, let's kind of go through a couple other names. You can tell me first if you would put him on the team, and then number two if you think Zach Johnson will. So Cam Young, start there.
So I think this is unfortunate, but I think that he has to. If Zach wants to do his due diligence, he has to go see what kind of golf course they're playing. Because I think that matters here. I think that the Cam Young pick is directly dependent on the golf course.
I agree completely. I also think there's another aspect that matters a lot, and that is what are the pairings that you're expecting to make? And just Cam Young's game fit really well with somebody else's. So, like, the last Ryder Cup was one of my bigger PGA weeks. I had DJ as the captain, and I had him with Morikawa. And basically, like, the whole premise of it was that their two games just complemented each other perfectly. You got DJ driving the ball like a maniac off the tee, just setting up Morikawa, who at the time was pretty comfortably the best iron player in the world, and they were just going to have a million birdie looks, and that's exactly what they did together. I think one of the major questions with Cam Young is there somebody who he thinks is really going to benefit from the way Cam Young can drive the ball? And that starts with, does he think that this is a course where Cam Young's driver can really be weaponized, or is it a course that kind of takes that advantage out of his hands? So I'm with you. Course fit's a major one, but then I also think the really like overlooked aspect of this is expected pairings and if there are games that complement one another.
Yeah, I agree, but I think Cam Young, the first immediate pairing that comes to mind would be somebody like Brian Harman together, in my opinion. But is Cam Young and Wyndham Clark in that situation could you not just interchange those and make that pairing and it looks pretty similar? So I think the other thing is how replaceable that person becomes on the team as well if they have somebody with similar skill set that's playing better.
Sure. I think that's a really good call. But if like, let's say that's the exact formula they want to pair great long drivers with like really precision players who are not just good with their irons, but also good on and around the green. Like, then maybe you don't want just one. You want as many of those guys as you possibly can, knowing that you've got the precision guys as well, particularly with Harman and Spieth. So Morikawa, the next guy we're going to talk about, potentially another guy. So I think where we really agree is that this isn't necessarily a conversation about who has earned it or who deserves it the most. It's just going to help the team win, and there are a lot of things that go into that decision. All of that said, let's go on to Morikawa.
What about? I mean, so like this is a perfect person to talk about. How much do you take into how much into account do you take form? Like Morikawa's obviously scuffling a little bit. Like he's not himself with his irons, and he doesn't putt good enough to overcome scuffling with his irons. Does that do you lean into guys that aren't necessarily playing as well? You know, do you go all the way down to somebody like a Denny McCarthy who seems to be in a little bit better form over somebody like that?
I think that there are three like main ingredients here. There's historical major performance with an added weight to the majors this year, historical Ryder Cup performance or even match play, President's Cup thrown in there for sure. And then there's just current form. I think that you want guys who at least check two of those three boxes. Morikawa does. McCarthy has the form. Maybe you could make a case that he has, at least decent recent track record in majors. But I think he certainly falls short of Morikawa, Justin Thomas in the majors and the Ryder Cup /
I guess McCarthy might not be as good an example of somebody like Lucas Glover. I think Lucas Glover is a better example of would you rather have, a scuffling Morikawa or a red hot Lucas Glover that's gonna. I mean, I think it's pretty well aware he's going to be a great, teammate. He's going to be a great locker room guy. He's pretty well liked. Is there something to be said with a guy like that instead of a Morikawa or even a Cam Young?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. I will say, I think that would be more the case if the Ryder Cup was next week, right? It's September 25th, I think it starts. So we're more than a month away today. So the recent form probably matters a little less because it's not like they're guaranteed to still be in that form a month from now, having not played anywhere near as often, or at least not in the events with as much meaning as they've played recently.
Well, I mean, Glover's form tee to green's the same it's always been. Unbelievable. He's just learned how to putt here recently.
Yeah, I mean, he's always been really good, but his form of late has been insane ball striking wise as well. I mean, he's gaining well over a stroke per round with his irons in his last 7 events or something like that. He's always been a good iron player, but not an elite iron player in terms of like best in the world level.
And I think
for the last couple months.
I mean, I think also, so this is where I think if Zach Johnson's picking on emotion, you're going to get Justin Thomas or Lucas Glover. I think that's the way. If you're not picking on emotion, I think it's a little bit different. You know what I think stinks is that Will Zalatoris is not going to be in this Ryder Cup because he's well on his way, right?
Yep. Yeah, I have no doubt that he will be back eventually, probably even next year or next year in the President's Cup and the year after in the Ryder Cup, assuming he gets back to full health relatively quickly. Let's continue to move down the list here. What's your Keegan thought? Because obviously he's been a favorite of ours all season long. Has he earned this? Or can he help the team win?
I mean, I think he's going to be – I think you kind of know what you're going to get with him. I mean, you know how he is. He's definitely an emotional guy. I got no problem with Keegan representing the U.S. in the Ryder Cup. I think, once again, this comes into that emotion play of Zach Johnson. Like, if he's looking to dig on this emotion this year, you're going to see – your picks are going to be Jordan Spieth, your pick, Keegan Bradley, Lucas Glover. That's your emotional, they're going to be in it as far as that goes. So I think he kind of fits right into that. And also he's played pretty dang good too. So
yeah, I think the big key for Keegan too is that one of the reasons why he's played so much better, like Glover, is that he's had this monumental improvement with his putter. And I even say it's more lasting from Keegan, right? Like he has sustained the improved putting all season long, whereas Glover's has been really hot for a couple months here. So I think that really helps his case too in terms of just how he will hold up in match play and in under the pressure of the Ryder Cup. Because if there was a reason why he would underperform in this environment in the past, it was that he just couldn't make the putts that he needed to make in order to, squeak out a halve or win a key hole or something like that. He can now. So I think he's more prepared for match play at this point in his career than he's ever been before.
Yeah, and like I said, I think Zach Johnson's got to stake his claim here to what he's doing, and that's I just hope he stands by his guns and he's like, all right, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, this is who I'm picking, and because it's I mean, would you say probably the most difficult year?
I'm not sure. It's weird because I think on paper, like the top end talent for this European team is so damn good. Where the US has the clear advantage is depth, but how much does depth really matter if the Europeans can just say, we don't care about getting everybody as many starts as we can. We just care about putting our best foot forward every single round. And you don't really need depth if you've got everyone set up. So I think where depth can obviously play a major role is in singles, but it's also just one match. So anything can happen in singles. I think this is going to be one of the more exciting and more competitive Ryder Cups that we've seen recently, particularly if you include the President's Cups. But man, this seems like it's going to be a slugfest.
Yeah, and are they really that much deeper? I mean, are they that much deeper than the Europeans? I think that's just kind of what we see, right? Like, I mean, Tyrell Hatton's your fifth best player on your team. Like, you're pretty deep if you're talking about playing Hatton as your fifth and Hovland as your third or fourth. I mean, like, they don't lack depth. I think they just lack exposure.
Well, I think there's a pretty significant drop off. So you've got Rory, Rahm, Hovland, Hatton, Fleetwood, and Fitzpatrick. And then there's a pretty clear drop. Straka, Lowry, Rose, McIntyre, Meronk, Noren, Seamus, Power. Like when you get past that sixth guy, there's a very clear teardrop in play. Whereas with the US, I'm not even sure where you put that tier, right? Like you've got Scotty, Clark, Harman, Cantlay, Homa, Coughley. Honestly, Harman, maybe even Clark, they're probably the ones near the bottom, even though they've obviously, had fantastic seasons and have such easy automatic bids. But Koepka, Spieth, Cam Young, Morikawa, Keegan, Burns, Fowler, JT, Glover, like the names just go on and on for the U.S. team that I think you would easily slot any of them into seventh at worst on the European team.
I don't know. Shane Lowry. I'll take out of all of our captain's picks, I'd take Shane Lowry in singles against just about all of them, I think. I just think that he has that extra. I think he's really good, right? I think that he hasn't performed this year like he can, but he's a very talented player. And I just think like there's guys like if Meronk would play a full season over here, I think we would see more out of him. Sepp Straka obviously shows some form at times, but he's still not elite. I agree. Like a guy like Cam Young could be elite, whereas Sepp can't be really. I don't see him as an elite player. I mean, I see your point. I just think that there's certain guys back there that if they played over here more, Robert McIntyre needs to play over here more. I think he's really, really talented. And then once again, it comes down to that golf course. I don't know anything about it. Do you know anything about it?
So the extent of what I know is I have seen speculation and analysis that it is more of the like accuracy and precision type golf course. I don't think we necessarily need to lean on that analysis. I think we know that's going to be what Europe wants to do. Just like we know that the US is going to lean to golf courses that reward the crazy distance that they have throughout the entire team. So maybe not as severe as what was it, France 4 years ago, and then
that was
the polar opposite with Whistling Straits. I don't think it'll be that severe, or maybe it won't be that severe, but I think we're going to continue to see that trend, Ryder Cup after Ryder Cup after Ryder Cup, where there's.
Man, I wish they'd play a tour event at that France golf course.
Yeah.
Percent. All right. I mean, you want to talk a little bit about this week? I know I got a few guys that I kind of like that, I'd like to see play good. I think Schauffele plays really well this week. It's a great golf course for him. There's really, I think literally this week.
Let's start with what you're looking for in terms of like course fit. How do you want to attack this golf course?
Well, generally speaking, and this is just from experience, I don't know if this will be different with how dry it's been, right? It's been a little bit different weather this year, but usually Zoysia fairways, it's about how far you carry it, and then it generally lands pretty soft. It's going to stay in the fairway. Usually firm Bermuda greens, so high spin guys, going to mean something. And then you're going to I'm also going to care about guys that want to be there and give themselves a chance, because I think there's some guys that you talk about being checked out. I think you'll have some of that this week.
Yeah, I think so too. That was going to be my next question: are there any kind of narratives that you're leaning into this week that maybe it's a psychological one, maybe it's that you think guys who are starting lower down, they're going to be kind of all out and let's see how well I can score, how many birdies I can make. Maybe the guys at the top kind of feel like they have something to protect and maybe they get a little bit too defensive.
I mean, if Scheffler won by 10 shots, would you be surprised?
No, I would not.
I don't think I would be at all. I think if Scotty went out there and won by 10, I'd be like, all right, it was coming. We knew it was coming. Mm-hmm. It finally happened. He just happened to start with a 2-shot lead. And he's one of those people that I don't think it matters how many shot lead he starts with. I don't think that it's not going to bother or help him. He's just going to go play golf.
The one thing I'll say to that is I remember people making this case in past years too, and I think I agree with you on Scotty, but it's a different conversation of how a guy plays with the lead when he's starting with this lead, because 99% of the time when you have a lead, like if he had a 2-stroke lead going into a Friday, for example, that means that he's been playing extremely well for at least one round already to achieve that lead, to get that lead. That's not the case this week. So I don't think we can make the exact same argument that, this guy typically plays really well with the lead. He stays aggressive, stays confident, all that. He doesn't kind of shrink up or get too defensive and make key mistakes, because 99% of the sample that we're thinking about comes when the guy has earned that lead in that week with his quality of play at that golf course. Again, that week, those days, not the case here. So I kind of throw that out the window. The one thing I will say, though, is if there's one thing that carries over, it's the mental approach to what happens when you have the lead. Do you stay aggressive? Do you stay committed to every single swing? Do you take it one swing, one shot, one hole at a time? I think Scotty does. And also, he's just so damn good. So why would we ever expect him to make a mistake? Of all the accolades and kind of records that he's breaking this year, I think bogey avoidance is the one that's the most mind-blowing to me. He's just so far ahead of everybody else in bogey avoidance.
And then the only other narrative you get into is the Ryder Cup narrative, right? Keegan Bradley, Spieth, Seb Straka, any of these guys that are on the outside looking in at either team, are they a little bit more focused here? And I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Zach Johnson's not in contact with all those guys. Hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm looking for. Show me what you got. How bad do you want this?
So with that in mind, near the bottom, you've got Spieth, Burns, Morikawa, all battling for one of these final spots. Do you think that you're viewing that as a reason to play them this week, knowing there's no amount out of the lead that they can get where they won't continue to play motivated golf?
Yeah, I think there's a case for that, for sure. Especially a high volatility guy like Burns, where a 62 could come on any day, So I think that's what he did last week, right? He finished top 15 with one really low round.
Nowhere.
Yeah.
Completely out of nowhere. I mean, he hadn't had a round anything close to that in a long, long time. In fact, that might be. I think that's his best round, according to Data Golf, plus 8.9 strokes from round 3. Man, he hadn't had a round with at least 3 strokes gained since he gained 4 in round 2 of the Scottish Open. That's how out of nowhere that round came.
Yeah, I mean, so you have to think he's motivated, right? I mean, I don't see how he couldn't be.
Do you think it's fair to just take the approach almost of anybody who's contrarian this week? I have no idea what ownership is going to look like yet, but just whoever's contrarian, just play them.
Yeah, pull names out of a hat. Like if you can pull 6 names out of the hat that all can fit in the same lineup. I mean, I would say if you were ever going to pick a week to leave a bunch of money on the table too, this is the same idea.
Yeah,
it's pretty. I mean, you got your 30 best players from the year, right? So, I mean, you can probably tell you guys like Adam Shank's going to be contrarian. There's going to be certain guys that to the general public that aren't very well known that I think are going to be fairly contrarian. And then, I mean, even like Jason Day is playing horrible golf. And if he comes in at 5% ownership in this field, if he shot 468s, he's probably going to pay off at his price. And you probably got a great play being contrarian without doing anything special. But yeah, dude, golf's so crazy. And if you can get leverage on the field, ownership wise in such a small field, this would be the week.
I also think that with so much focus on these Ryder Cup narratives, anybody who has no Ryder Cup relevance could end up going really underowned.
Hopefully Siwoo Kim, right? I mean, that's the one you want to be super underowned. Nobody cares. He hasn't played that. I mean, quiet, I think he finished T15 and then T30 the last 2 weeks. So, yeah, super underowned and just nobody has anything to worry about. And I think DraftKings, I just briefly looked at it, but they did a pretty good job of I don't think you can jam Scotty and Rory into the same lineup.
If you go with Scotty and Rory, you are left with $5,900 per player, which is doable this week. The lowest priced player, Nick Taylor, all the way down at $5,000. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 guys in the 5,000s. So it's not impossible to get both. But it's certainly going to look like a pretty wild lineup if you do. Sam Burns, by the way, 6,100, Spieth 67, Hatton 69. It was pretty crazy pricing this week. It's a fun one. I think I agree with you. DraftKings did a really nice job of making this a far more entertaining puzzle to solve than what it would be if they just went with the typical pricing.
Yeah, and the question is how chalky does it make those guys? How chalky does it make Spieth and Hatton and some of those guys? I mean, Hatton hasn't played very well lately, so that might get some people leaning away from him. I still think that Schauffele makes a really good run this week. I think he always plays good here and kind of hopefully will fly under the radar at that price.
And he has that ability to get really, really hot. And it's interesting. So many times this year, he has started 4 over through 7 or 3 over through 9 or something like that. And you think, oh my God, he's going to miss the cut. And then shoots 3 under the rest of the day, 6 under the next day, 6 under again on Saturday. And oh my God, he's in the top 5. So he's made himself a little bit more comfortable playing from behind this season than I think he would have wished.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think it's kind of the mini version of Scheffler, right? Scheffler kind of did that too. How many backdoor top 10s he seemed to have out of nowhere? Oh wait, he made the cut on the number, and the next thing you know, he's finishing tied for 7th. I mean, he finished top 5 in half the events of the year.
Yeah, absolutely insane what both Scotty has done, and also I don't think Rory has gotten enough credit for the quality of golf that he has played since the Wells Fargo 7th, 7th, 9th, 2nd, 7th win, 6th, 3rd, 4th. Not quite the second, third, second from Scotty that we've seen for a lot of this year, but if it weren't for what Scotty was doing, I think we would be paying a lot more attention to what Rory has done since early May.
Do you think any of that has to do with Rory being outspoken about the PGA Live and Scotty just going about his deal? Like he doesn't get the attention that's, it seems like people talk more about Rory's opinion on that stuff than they do his golf. Like even listen to his press conferences. They don't really ask that many questions about golf compared to his thoughts on that other stuff. So I think a lot of that's media driven.
I think there's something to that. I also think it's first impressions make lasting impressions. And so for a lot of this season early on, like prior to the PGA Championship, really, when he finished 7th, it was, what the hell is wrong with Rory? Why are Rahm and Scotty playing so much better golf? I mean, he won in October. He won on the Euro Tour in late January. He started the season 32nd, 29th, then a T2 at Bay Hill, but then he missed the cut at the Players, finished 3rd at the Match Play, missed the cut at the Masters, 47th at the Wells Fargo. Meanwhile, Scotty and Rahm have already won multiple times. They're finishing top 5 every single week. Like I think that has just made a lasting impression that all season, even as Rory started to rack up top 5 or top 10 after top 10 after top 10, people still were remembering Rory had a really slow start to the season. And for a lot of the season, it was a 2-headed monster at the top, not a 3-headed monster.
And I think the Masters is the biggest one in there, right? Like that's the one that like stands out, like a sore thumb. So I just, I can kind of see that. I think that a lot of these players that have become more outspoken about the situation with PGA Tour and Live, of their actual golf has gone further and further by the wayside.
One last thing about Rory. There's been a lot of talk about his putting and not getting it done, not making enough putts when he needs to win. I think it's worth noting. In this stretch, so since May, he has gained putting in every single event. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 consecutive events gaining with the putter. All of them, by the way, over 1/3 of a stroke per round. So he's been consistently good with the putter. He just hasn't had the spike week. Like he's also only gained he's gained a maximum of 0.8 per round. And he's only gained more than half a stroke per round 3 times. So in a way, I don't think people would be talking about the putter if he had lost strokes 3 times and then also gained like 1.5 per round twice, which made him win. And he also does have a win at the Scottish. So I think part of it too is just the expectations for Rory to win golf tournaments have become so high that every time he doesn't get it done, people focus on what he didn't do, whereas Scotty is still kind of getting a pass for not winning when he's given himself so many chances.
Yeah, and Rory's finish at the Scottish was unbelievable too. Those shots he hit down the stretch. So, no, there's no doubt he's so good, like so elite, talent wise. It's unbelievable. It's his ability to drive the ball has to be. If you ever want your kids to do anything like any golfer, it's drive the ball like he does. We can figure out the rest, right, from there. But yeah, no, he's been impressive as of late, and I think getting back to focusing on golf helped him, and with all his personal stuff going on and all this nonsense, I think. Yeah, I mean, if he won this week, I wouldn't be surprised. It's a perfect golf course for him. I mean, he's got to hit it long in the air, and drive it straight. A lot of trees, like he can have to. And if you hit it, there's not a lot of holes here with big penalties, but even if the rough's not up, it's a lot of punch shots. And if the fairways are as soft as normal, you can't really just chase a bunch up there. So, yeah, I mean, if you drive it straight here, hit it far, I mean, what do you know? Like every other golf course there is in the world, drive it far and straight, you're going to have a chance to win. So
agree completely. I think that will do it. We will be back for the Ryder Cup. So no shows before the Ryder Cup. Again, thank you so much to everybody who is tuned in to listen to what us jokers have to think about the game of golf, PGA Tour, all that good stuff. We will see you in the NFL streets, and we will see you at the Ryder Cup next